when the first object they met was Mrs. Selwyn. "So, my dear," cried she, "what, still courting the rural shades? I thought ere now you would have been satiated with this retired seat, and I had been seeking you all over the house; but I find the only way to meet with you is to inquire for Lord Orville. However, don't let me disturb your meditation; you are possibly planning some pastoral dialogue." And, with this provoking speech, she walked on. In the greatest confusion I was quitting the arbour, when Lord Orville said, "Permit me to follow Mrs. Selwyn. It is time to put an end to all impertinent conjectures. Will you allow me to speak to her openly?" I assented in silence, and he left me. I then went to my own room, where I continued till I was summoned to dinner, after which Mrs. Selwyn invited me to hers. The moment she had shut the door, "Your Ladyship," said she, "will, I hope, be seated." "Ma'am," cried I, staring. "Oh, the sweet innocent! So you don't know what I mean? But, my dear, my sole view is to accustom you a little to your dignity elect, lest, when you are addressed by your title, you should look another way, from an apprehension of listening to a discourse not meant for you to hear." Having, in this manner, diverted herself with my confusion, till her raillery was almost exhausted, she congratulated me very seriously upon the partiality of Lord Orville, and painted to me, in the strongest terms, his disinterested desire of being married to me immediately. She had told him, she said, my whole story, and yet he was willing, nay, eager, that our union should take place of any further application to my family. "Now, my dear," continued she, "I advise you by all means to marry him directly. Nothing can be more precarious than our success with Sir John; and the young men of this age are not to be trusted with too much time for deliberation, where their interests are concerned." "Good God, Madam," cried I, "do you think I would hurry Lord Orville?" "Well, do as you will," said she. "Luckily you have an excellent subject for quixotism, otherwise this delay might prove your ruin; but Lord Orville is almost as romantic as if he had been born and bred at Berry Hill." She then proposed, as no better expedient seemed likely to be suggested, that I should accompany her at once in her visit to the Hot Wells to morrow morning. The very idea made me tremble; yet she represented so strongly the necessity of pursuing this unhappy affair with spirit, or giving it totally up, that, wanting her force of argument, I was almost obliged to yield to her proposal. In the evening we all walked in the garden, and Lord Orville, who never quitted my side, told me he had been listening to a tale, which, though it had removed the perplexities that had so long tormented him, had penetrated him with sorrow and compassion. I acquainted him with Mrs. Selwyn's plan for tomorrow, and confessed the extreme terror it gave me. He then, in a manner almost unanswerable, besought me to leave to him the conduct of the affair, by consenting to be his before an interview took place. I could not but acknowledge my sense of his generosity; but I told him I was wholly dependent upon you, and that I was certain your opinion would be the same as mine, which was, that it would be highly improper I should dispose of myself for ever, so very near the time which must finally decide by whose authority I ought to be guided. The subject of this dreaded meeting, with the thousand conjectures and apprehensions to which it gives birth, employed all our conversation then, as it has all my thoughts since. Heaven only knows how I shall support myself, when the long expected, the wished yet terrible moment arrives, that will prostrate me at the feet of the nearest, the most reverenced of all relations, whom my heart yearns to know, and longs to love. Letter 77.